In today's pro football action, the Chargers a winner. In the second quarter, Green Bay's Lynn Dickey threw this 14-yard TD to Barty Smith. The super catch made it 7-0 Packers. With 19 seconds left till halftime, Kenny Anderson, who was 15 of 20 for 190 yards, to Isaac Curtis, 7-7 at the half. That's the way it stood in the third when Tony Davis scored from the 2, and a later field goal ended it the Bengals 17, Green Bay 7. Pastorini sprained his ankle. Terry Bradshaw broke a bone in his wrist in the Houston win over Pittsburgh. In a game played in a driving rain, the Patriots shut out the Seahawks as Steve Grogan threw for 3 TDs. The first one to Don Hasselbeck as New England gains their first shutout in 3 years, 31-0 over Seattle. Burt Jones passed for 4 TDs in the Colt come-from-behind win. This 19-yarder to Raymond Chester came with the Colts behind by 11, made it 28-24 at halftime. Then in the third quarter, it was Jones on a 34-yard touchdown pass to Don McCauley to put Baltimore ahead for good. The Colts a winner, 45-28. Now for the story of the Jets' win over Buffalo. Joe Ferguson hit Lou Picone on a 4-yard first-quarter TD, 7-0 Bills. It was 10-7 Jets in the third, and Richard Todd threw to Jerome Barkham, 17-7 Jets. In the fourth quarter, Ferguson on his second TD pass of the day, a 5-yarder to Bob Chandler, 17-14. It was 17-17 when, after a Jet fumble recovery, Clark Gaines ran for 14 as the Jets won at 24-19 despite a 122-yard performance from O.J. In the Raider win over the Browns, Mark Van Egan went over the 100-yard rushing mark. He scored 2 TDs. This is first. Errol Mann added 4 field goals as Oakland won their 17th straight regular season game, beating Cleveland 26. The Broncos over the Chiefs.
The New York Jets kept the Buffalo Bills winless, and they did it in the fourth quarter on this 14-yard run by Clark Gaines. The final 24-19 Jets, and they're now 2-2. With the score tied at 3 and 40 seconds left in the first quarter, the Cardinals unleashed running back Terry Metcalf. Number 21 broke through the middle of the Cowboy line and went 62 yards for a touchdown and a 10-3 St. Louis lead. But Dallas wasn't without their game breaker either. Heisman Trophy winner Tony Dorsett went one better about 5 minutes later when he danced through the Cardinal defense and went 77 yards to tie it up. But the Cardinals had one more big play left in the first half, and it came on this 60-yard hookup between Jim Hart and Mel Gray. They added another TD in the third quarter, and the Cowboys booted 2 field goals before Dorsett closed the gap to 1 on this 1-yard plunge in the fourth quarter. Then, with about 7 minutes left, Roger Staubach hit Golden Richards on this 17-yard touchdown pass to give the Cowboys a 30-24 lead that they never lost. The Minnesota Vikings beat the Lions 14-7 with a winning touchdown coming on this play. Fran Tarkenton hits Ahmad Rashard, who laterals to Sammy White, who runs it in for the touchdown, 59 yards.
Weatherman says the temperature likely will range from the 47 at kickoff to a high of 55 for the day, but it's bright and sunny. 10 minutes, 50 seconds left to play in the first quarter. There is no score. Foreman's in the left set. McClanahan's in the right set. Rashad part of the right, and White's in a slot right. Harkinen going to White. Sammy White. Touchdown.
Oh, what a beautiful move, and what a great pass, Lindsey. Fran Tarkenton had his eye on Sammy White all the way. The Vikings go 77 yards in 9 plays. Look at this pass protection. And watch Fran look over the field. Beautiful pass, and downfield cutting for the flag, as they call it, a flag pattern, is Sammy White for his second touchdown pass of the year.
Coming into the ball game now, Fred Cox playing in his 200th consecutive game, only the 7th man in the history of the National Football League to do that. He missed 2 last week. One was blocked, one was missed. He's 3 for 5 in extra points. Krause puts it down. Cox boots it up, and it's good. And so the Minnesota Vikings have drawn first blood. 10 minutes, 36 seconds remain to be played in the first quarter, and the Vikings are leading by a score of 7-0.
Some quick scores, Lindsey. Steve Grogan has thrown 2 touchdown passes. New England 14, Seattle nothing first quarter. Oakland, Earl Mann 3 field goals. They lead Cleveland in the second quarter 9-3. Baltimore and Miami, 2 unbeatens going at it today. They're tied up 7-7 first quarter. And San Diego's take a 7-0 lead over New Orleans. 88-yard punt return by Mike Fuller.
Detroit Lions are in a 5-2. They've got Price, Hand, English, Orvis, and Sanders up there as a front 5. Dropping back is Tarkenton. And it is complete to Rashad across the 50-yard line, and he comes back. It's White. White's got the football at the 30, 25, 20. White to the 15, 10, 5, touchdown. Sammy White. Oh, boy.
Oh, he improvised that one. That wasn't a planned play, ladies and gentlemen. Sammy White goes in on a lateral from Ahmad Rashad for his second touchdown. Now watch, Lindsey. We got Sammy White lined up in the slot. Tarkenton, who's 5 out of 6. Comes back, finds his man open. Now this is Rashad on a turn-in. Now watch the lateral coming up here. Ooh, that was a quick lateral, wasn't it? Here we got it again. There's Sammy White. He's on the square out. Right here. Take it, pal. I don't want it. I'm going out of bounds. And White goes in.
He took it 59 yards. Cross puts it down. Cox puts it up, and it's good. So, with 8 minutes, 18 seconds remaining to be played in the first quarter, the Minnesota Vikings have struck twice, and they are leading you by a score of 14-0. As we are approaching the halftime intermission.
Well, it's a good catch by David Hill there. Plus, with just a little bit behind him, and he used his body well.
By the way, during halftime, of course, we'll be hearing from Brett, Irv, and Phyllis.
Yes, sir.
Next Sunday, CBS Sports will present an NFL doubleheader, and of course we'll have Atlanta and Buffalo, Green Bay and Detroit, St. Louis, Philadelphia. Check your local listings for the time in your area. It'll be the San Francisco 49ers and the Giants. The Bears will be playing Minnesota next week in a big one. Later that afternoon, next Sunday, the NFL on CBS, and of course be sure and tune in 30 minutes before kickoff for the NFL Today. Coming up this afternoon, a big one, Dallas and St. Louis over most of these stations. When play is resumed here, the Detroit Lions will have the ball. They'll have it 1st and 10 at the 29-yard line of the Minnesota Vikings.
I think they'd like to get at least another 10 yards. Steve Mickemeyer would have to attempt a field goal. Oh, right there, if the ball were snapped right now, Lindsey, it'd be about a 47-yard field goal against a little wind. So they've got 2 types of thinking here. They can go for the home run, try to put 7 on, or get it down there a little bit closer for a field goal.
We've said before the game that field condition could be a factor, and it certainly has been in the first half. Landry dropping back. Well, a penalty marker is thrown, a sliding catch by Horace King. Red Cashin will give us an indication of holding against the Lions.
Tough penalty there. They picked up about 4 or 5 yards on the pass completion, which would have narrowed that yardage down for a field goal attempt about 43, 44. Now this will probably put them out of it. fourth holding penalty of the afternoon for the Lions.
Cashin sort of put it on the wrong side of the 40-yard line, so he resets it.
Holding number 71, Detroit.
Craig Herdwick.
Well, he's having a hard time over there. He's going against Carl Eller early. And now number 72, James White, is in there. 2-year veteran from Oklahoma State.
First down and 20 yards to go with 8 seconds remaining until the end of the first half. The Minnesota Vikings are leading the Lions 14-0.
55 yards and penalties here in the first half for Detroit. It's hurt.
330, set, ready.
Landry. Going long, and it's caught at the 12-yard line by Jarvis. Time has run out, and that's it. The gun sounds. Being marked at the 11-yard line.
I was going to say Landry is down there complaining. He thought that the clock should have been stopped with about 2 seconds or at least 1 second on that clock. But they say it ran out.
To no avail, and so you see the teams heading for the locker room as the Minnesota Vikings carry a 14-point lead into the locker room at halftime. Vikings came out here this afternoon and got 14 points in a hurry, then held off the Detroit Lions.
This is my team, and this is the new Giants Stadium in the Meadowlands. Hello, I'm Brad Van Pelt. New York's so big that it's hard to even begin to tell you about it. I could start here with a skyline like no other in the world. But let me show you a special part of the New York scene. It's the feeling you get when you're jogging in Central Park, walking up Fifth Avenue, riding the subway, or looking back on the city from the George Washington Bridge. The feeling that here, in what may be the greatest experiment of people living together, there is the greatest need for human friendship. That's why the United Way volunteers are so important. They work for the visiting nurses, Girl Scouts, Salvation Army, and many other agencies funded by the United Way. New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut wouldn't be the same without them. On behalf of the volunteers and the Tri-State United Way, we'd like to say, thanks to you, it works for all of us, the United Way.
The preceding announcement was brought to you as a public service by the National Football League. It's halftime here at Bloomington, Minnesota, and the Minnesota Vikings are leading the Detroit Lions by a score of 14-0. Hello, everybody. I'm Lindsey Nelson with Paul Horning here at Bloomington, and Paul, the Vikings got 14 points in a hurry, and for the Lions, it was a struggle throughout the first half.
They sure did, and Detroit, as we've been mentioning all during this ball game, came in as the #1 team in rushing in the National Football League, and they've been stymied here in the first half. Actually, Fran Tarkenton just picked them apart, especially in that first quarter. He's 13 out of 21 in the first half for 188 yards. His counterpart, Landry, is 10 out of 18 for 134 yards, but they haven't been able to rush the football. Detroit just about 30 yards, 20 yards rushing, actually, and that is not comparable to what they've been doing.
Well, as you pointed out, the field condition has been a factor because it's been a heavy field, a muddy field, a tough one to try to establish a rushing game on.
Well, you know, Lindsey, there's two schools of thought. Now, what we're watching now is a team struggling to run the football. They can't plant. It doesn't look like they're cutting off when they plant their cleats in the ground. But, you know, looking back, I know I wasn't a fast back, but you had guys like Taylor and myself. We used to love an off-track, and we were a pretty good rushing football team. When we got an off-track, we figured it would help the rushing. It helped the offensive line, the blocks. You really don't have to sustain your blocks as far. You just have to get a standoff, and the back just picks a little bit of daylight. But Detroit has really had a tough time moving the football on the ground, and, of course, that lateral pass from Rashad. Rashad has caught 5 for 77 passes, and there lies another story. Detroit 55 yards in penalties. The one penalty took him out of possibly 3 points on the board there at the close of the first half.
Ask you, do you see any similarities between this Viking football team and the later-day Green Bay Packers? Some people have thought that perhaps there are similarities because of the fact that the Pack got to be a fairly old football team, but they played well enough to beat you. They didn't really blow you out, but they would continue to win. These Vikings last year didn't run over people, but they managed to win.
You know, I think the great similarity, if we can draw one, is because of that man right there. Bud Grant is a winner, and he loves to win, and he coaches his football team, they're not that much of a rah-rah team. They don't get too excited, but they try to play and make the least mistakes. They let you beat yourselves more than you'll see a Viking team beat themselves, and I think that's been the secret. Also, they've got a heady guy at quarterback who's not going to make the mistakes. He's already has 5 interceptions on the year, but that's not the usual Fran Tarkenton. We're seeing the Fran Tarkenton today.
Well, in the Central Division, I'm certain that everybody who plays them is trying to knock off the Minnesota Vikings.
Well, they have to. And they deserve that that era. The last 10 years, they have been the most winning team in the National Football Conference. Grant has done just an absolute super job. They've got 8 guys over 10 years of experience, but those 8 guys, they do a lot for the rookies and the first and second year men. They teach them how to, when they're in a ball game, how to react under certain circumstances, and that helps. This team, man for man, is as good as almost any team in pro football. They're not going to beat themselves.
Vikings 14 and the Lions nothing. Bussey and King are the setbacks. Bussey right and King left. Motion back to the inside. It's Bussey going wide, cutting back. Guys to the 10 and inside. Just about the 8-yard line.
And I want to tell you, Lindsey, Carl Eller, number 81, saved the touchdown here. They got good blocking. Bussey goes around the left side. He makes a good cut here. Marshall overruns the play, cuts back to the inside, and here comes Carl Eller. He could have got by Big Carl, and it would have been 6.
There have been many trying to get by Big Carl for many, many years. He is a 14-year veteran, 247-pounder, 6'6".
And I tell you, I had to block him a lot of times, Lindsey. When I had to block him, it looked like it was a double wing. I'd move right up outside of that tackle. He was so quick.
Popped it out to the right flat, and it's Luther Blue, and he's in for a touchdown. Luther Blue in for a Detroit touchdown.
And I tell you, there was about 2 missed tackles on the play. 67 yards that drive in 15 plays. It's just a quick hitch out to Luther Blue, and he does the rest. Watch this right here. Nate Wright misses him. Jeff Wright misses him, and the middle linebacker. That's Seaman. Good run by Luther Blue to put the Lions on the board.
Luther Blue, a rookie from Iowa State. And Steve Mickemeyer is in to attempt the conversion. It points after he is 6 for 7. Gary Danielson, former quarterback at Purdue, will hold.
They blocked a lot of kicks. They'll really be trying to block this extra point. Here they come.
Got that one up, and it's good. So as they come back up the field, it is the Vikings 14, the Detroit Lions 7. And we have 6 minutes, 15 seconds remaining to be played in the 3rd quarter of the game. Landry. And this time Alan Page has him in his grasp. Alan Page got to it.
Yeah, that's what he does best. The quickness of Alan Page in the middle on the sack. Big defensive play for Allen.
A big one because it brings the punting unit on, and the Detroit Lions have to give up the football here in the 4th quarter. Tarkenton over the middle to White. Sammy White at the 40. Sammy White fumbled the ball, and Detroit may have recovered it. They did. The Detroit Lions got it.
On a post pattern, Sammy White catches the football. He's got the first down in Detroit territory, loses the handle, and Detroit gets a break.
They get the ball, 1st and 10 at about the 36.
This is Jim Laslovic in the middle linebacker. He sees White right here. A good catch by Sammy White. Greg Landry has not had an interception all year long.
You see Big Jim Yarbrough there back in action this afternoon. He had been out with an injury, 9-year veteran from Florida. It is 2nd down and 10 yards to go. 2nd and 10. Rick Kane is in that backfield now. Greg Landry dropping back.
Pressure.
And he is caught by Carl Eller. Carl Eller, number 81.
Big Carl from his outside, a 14-year veteran from Minnesota. He'll come from the left of your screen. Greg Landry didn't seem to the last minute. And that was caused again by number 81, Carl Eller. Pressure on the left side. And the defense getting a great hand here. They love the defense here in Minnesota. And that guy right there has been a big part of it for so many years.
It'll be second down and 10 yards to go. Play is being brought in from the bench now by Dexter Bussey. Charlie Sanders going off on the far side.
Boy, very unusual today. We have not had a field goal attempt in this ball game. Coming
Dallas
up
and
next,
St. Louis.
right? Boy, what a big one that is. Stay tuned right here. The NFL at its best on CBS.
Andre throws, and it is intercepted at the 15-yard line by Bryant. Bryant.
He caught the ball laying flat on his back.
He was on his back, and the ball was right in his hand. So that gives the ball to Minnesota.
And that should just about do it. Landry's got to go for the home run here. Look at that catch by Bobby Bryant. He was actually on his back when he caught the football. That is Landry's first interception of the year.
5 seconds left to play in the game. First and 10 at the 15-yard line.
Only thing they can hope for now be a miracle to be stripped the football. And they'd have to strip it, I think, for Fran Tarkenton, who's going to get it.
I think he'll hit the deck, and there he goes. That's the Tarkenton move here. He's done it so well so long. Timeout for the Detroit Lions, and we have 2 seconds left. That's their final timeout. Lions want to just avail themselves of every possible opportunity, so they've used the timeout. Bud Grant, it's been another one of those ball games, and the Minnesota Vikings have had a great many of them over the years here at Metropolitan Stadium.
Bud Grant got his 100th coaching victory in the NFL last week. It should be 101. He had 102 in Canada.
Again now, Tarkenton hits the deck, and the time has run out, and that's the end of the ball game. As the Minnesota Vikings have won it 14-7. Keep in mind that next Saturday afternoon at 4:30 on these stations, you'll see the CBS Sports Spectacular. Something for everybody with a variety of top events. Here this afternoon, the Minnesota Vikings won it 14-7. Lindsey Nelson with Paul Horning. Stay tuned as the NFL Today continues after this word from your local station.
A very warm, sunshiny afternoon here in Tampa. Hi, everybody. I'm Frank Lieber, along with Roy Jefferson. Going to be a case of youth against experience, and what better way to personify that than by looking at the two quarterbacks.
That's certainly right, Frank. You've got Randy Hedberg from Minot State in North Dakota, who's 22 years old. He's got a rifle arm, and he's a scrambler. And then on the other side, you got that old war horse, Billy Kilmer, 38 years old, 16 years difference. But he does it week in and week out, just like he did last week against the St. Louis Cardinals, when he threw for 3 touchdowns. And it looks like it just might be a great football game out here today.
We'd like to welcome Mr. Jefferson to our CBS broadcast crew for the first time, and I understand you've done some welcoming of your own at your house over the weekend.
That's right. My wife, Candy, presented me with a 6-pound, 15-ounce baby boy just yesterday.
Isn't that far out?
I've got a cigar.
Oh, yeah, that's just what I need. Just think about 35 years, and you'll be old enough to play for George.
Hope not.
Wide receiver, no doubt. Things are happening down in the field. Let's go down there right now.
They're really intent on trying to run that left side where Leroy Selman, of course, who's their best defensive lineman, is sitting right out there. And I guess there's something they know that we don't know, because Leroy Selman is supposed to be the best that's come in this league for many a year.
Second down. Redskins need 4 for the first down. Ball is at the Tampa Bay 26. Thomas, nothing. And again, it was Selman, number 63, the former All-American from Oklahoma, who dropped him for no gain.
Tampa Bay defense is a tough club.
You know, they played Minnesota down here and held them to 9 points.
That's right. Dallas to 23. When you owe the Dallas club the 23 points, and I think defensively they didn't have that many points scored on. The offense actually gave up a couple of touchdowns in that game.
Also played well against Philadelphia. 3rd down, 4. Thomas. Again,
football.
nothing. Dave Pear, number 76, the middle guard in that 3-man front, the nose guard in effect, made the stop. He was a Baltimore Culver eject, and the Redskins will be forced to the field goal attempt here.
I tell you, right at the point of attack, they look like they're getting right clear through there, but as soon as that back pops through, somebody is right there every time.
Mosley will attempt a 44-yard field goal. There has been only one field goal over 50 yards kicked in the NFL this year, and it was Mark Mosley who did it. He has a 51-yarder to his credit. It is plenty long, and it is good.
Great kick.
So Mosley gets his 4th field goal of the year in 6 attempts, and the Redskins are on the scoreboard first with 10 minutes and 10 seconds remaining in the opening period of play at Tampa Bay Stadium in Tampa, Florida. Redskins open it up a little bit with just one running back. Riggins. Kilmer lets fly. And Fugit at the 10-yard line. Gene Fugit is down to the 5 at his 1st and goal to go. Made it look easy.
I knew that after not being able to run the ball, I thought Billy may go to the air more, and if he's throwing the ball like this all day, Tampa could be in trouble. That was a great catch by Gene Fugit. All it was is splitting the zone there. They get into that Sam zone defense, and there's nobody right over the middle. Fugit scored on the same pass against St. Louis just last week.
Officials mark it at the 6 at his 1st down goal to go. Kilmer has hit all 3 of his pass attempts for a total of 51 yards. And when he is hot, look out. Going to try to run it from here. Thomas, touchdown.
Beautiful cut. Absolutely beautiful cut that Mike made there to get in there. That was slated to go outside, but
well, look at it again here, and he does make a great cut on this. He almost went through untouched, really.
Tim Stokes is trying to hook Selman. He can't hook him, and Mike just makes a great cut back up inside against the grain to score that touchdown.
A couple of years ago, this guy gained 919 yards on the ground. He was Rookie of the Year. Last year became the 2nd man in Redskin history, in addition to Larry Brown, to go over 1,000 at 1,101 yards rushing, and he's off to a fairly decent start this year. Extra point try is good by Mosley, and the Redskins have jumped out to a 10-0 lead with 5 minutes and 28 seconds left to play in the opening period.
And everybody's got to remember that Mike Thomas didn't have any training camp whatsoever. He's still in training camp.
A word that Houston's leading Pittsburgh 17-10, and Terry Bradshaw has been taken to the hospital in Houston to check on an injury to his ribs. Some interesting results around the league, and as we said, we will be passing those along to you throughout the course of the afternoon. Oakland beat Cleveland today 26-10. The Jets beat Buffalo 24-19. Philadelphia over the Giants 28-10, and New England shut out Seattle 31-0. Tampa Bay gets Seattle next week, and that is what they're calling Expansion Bowl 2.
Yes, and I think Tampa is really looking forward to it this year, hoping that they can maybe come up with their number 2 victory. Of course, looking forward to beating Washington today.
Mosley 1 out of 2 in the field goal department, and Mike Thomas with a short touchdown run, the only TD of the game.
Tampa Bay defense is really bottling up Washington's running game, and actually Billy hasn't been too successful throwing the ball, mainly because of the pass rush of Tampa Bay.
Gary Huff from his own 33-yard line, intercepted, picked off by Kenny Houston at the 40. Time has run out in the first half to the 30. Tries to lateral the ball. I think he was trying to lateral it. Anyway, time has run out, and the first half is over.
It's still live.
Well, let's see.
It's still live. Look at that. Is that great? I don't know if it's great or not. All these mistakes, but they were trying to score.
I don't think great is what I use, but I think he was trying to lateral the ball because he knew time had run out and he was being tackled. That is Joe Lavender, number 20, who wound up with the football. We'll look at it again. Watch the whole sequence of events here.
Maybe it wasn't great, but that was fantastic. Everything that happened on that one play. Kenny Houston has a nose for running the ball, and he gets back to the opposite side of the field, and it looked like he got it all the way, and then he's cut off there. He fumbles the ball. Gerard Williams picks it up, and he's the one. He laterals it back to Brown, little Eddie Brown. Someone kicks it. Joe Bird picks it up, and he's gone. That is one way to end the half, I guess.
All right. That's it. That's the end of the first half with the score, Washington 10, Tampa Bay nothing.
Next Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, CBS Sports Spectacular presents live coverage of the Jockey Club Gold Cup, the third leg of the Fall Triple Crown. Highlights of the highly acclaimed Junichi Cup with three-time Olympic gold medalist Nadia Comaneci of Romania competing. And the world's strongest men competition featuring the wrist roll. That's next Saturday at 4:30.
Welcome back to Tampa Bay. Frank Lieber along with Roy Jefferson at halftime with Washington leading Tampa Bay 10-0. As we promised you, a couple of special interviews. Roy was down on the field prior to the game and talked to George Allen.
The Redskins, it's especially so when you play a team like Tampa, because in the past, we haven't generally done well with the weaker teams in the league. What is your thought about your players this week?
Well, Roy, that's a good question because it's a big game for us. By winning, we're either tied with Dallas or 2 games ahead of St. Louis, and we also can pick up a game on either Philadelphia or New York since they're playing today. We respect this ball club. They have an excellent defense. In fact, they have one of the best defenses in the league, and we're going to have to play a top-notch game to win. We're going to have to play all the way around, special teams, offense, and defense. We just can't let down.
Right. You know, you talk about defense. That is definitely Tampa Bay's strong point. But you just got a guy back, Chris Hamburger. He had an appendectomy not too many weeks ago. Came back last week and had a great game against the Cardinals. How is his status now? Was he able to practice this week? And what do you look forward to?
Roy, he split the time with Mike Curtis again. He should be better this week because he went through that. I didn't think he could play the whole game last week. We feel the big thing we have to do on defense is not give them anything cheap. They got a lot of speed and 2 of their wide receivers. We don't know whether Ricky Bell is going to play today. And I expect Chris would play the whole ball game today. That's what I'm planning for.
I thought it was a great thing. I thought it was something emotionally uplifting for the team that Chris did get back last week.
Yeah.
And against a team like St. Louis, it was the best showing of the Redskins this year. And within my mind, I saw that's what we needed, you know. That's what the Redskins needed, was a good win against a good team.
Well, Roy, we had what you experienced. We had a lot of enthusiasm and players congratulating each other, and the sidelines were alive. We played like the Redskins of old, and that's what we'll have to get today. I know that sometimes it's difficult coming off a big win to have that same emotion 2 weeks in a row, but Tampa, expansion teams at home, usually play well. That's when they have their best performances.
Billy Kilmer, he is the man. I think he is the man that has to make that offensive unit go. Yeah. And many people were worried about that. He wasn't capable of it. I saw last week that he was. How is Billy doing now with his little injuries?
Well, he had a better week this week, and I think that our offensive line should have more confidence. They had a good game against St. Louis. Mike Thomas should be better. He's really still in training camp from a conditioning standpoint. Calvin's been doing a good job for us in there. We really have more depth in our running backs than we've had in the past.
Right. The defense again. Dennis Johnson, he had a great game last week. He had 2 sacks. Yeah. Do you anticipate Dennis having a great year coming off of that game he had last week?
I sure hope so, because Dennis is young. He has the quickness, the speed, the strength, and I'll be interested in the type of game Dennis has. I think Dennis can have a great season this year if he plays with that intensity. He was a wild man last week.
He was.
He was pounding the ground.
It was exciting watching him do it. Coach, I thank you, and have a good game today. Good luck to you.
Thank you, Roy. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Head coach George Allen in that interview taped prior to today's game. You heard them mention the Tampa Bay defense. We'll talk about the Buccaneers defense with their head coach, John McKay, in a moment. The NFL Today on CBS will return after this word from your local station. Coach, your defense appears to be playing good enough to stay on the field with anybody.
Well, Frank, we've been fortunate. We haven't had any injuries there, and we've got a young defensive team, but they're very aggressive, and truthfully, there are a lot of pretty good athletes on the team, and I hope it can hold up this afternoon.
How about your patience?
Well, my patience is still pretty good because I think we are doing exactly what we set out to do. We're a very young team that as we grow older, I think we'll grow a lot better, and this is our plan. We had a 5-year plan when we came here, and we think we're on schedule.
Do you think the weather will help you here and that it may wear down some of these old men?
Oh, I don't know about that, but I do know the crowd will help us. It's a tremendous crowd, and they'll be behind us. And if we can make some big plays and get them all stirred up, I think it helped us certainly against Minnesota and did against Baltimore here earlier. And it's helped us about every time we've played here.
Are you disappointed at all with the way the offense has gone, or do you attribute it mainly to the injuries?
Well, I attribute it mostly, Frank, to the injuries, with Barilla going down, who had been a #1 quarterback, and then Huff went down and still really not ready to play very much. Ricky Bell goes down, and then our 2 tight ends and our left guard. So we've been injured there, but on the good aspect of it, defensively, we hadn't had anybody injured, so our defense is playing well. I don't think our offense is playing very well at all.
What did you base your decision on starting quarterback today on?
Well, I think that they're going to rush us. I think Hedberg's a better scrambler, so we're going to go with him first. But I expect to put Huff in the ball game if he can move around. But he is wearing one of those knee braces, Frank, that I don't especially like. And I didn't think last week against Dallas that he could move well enough to escape blitzes and things like that. And I think you have to do that in this type of football.
I know you said you need something like 25 #3 draft picks or better to be a contender. Is that kind of your code?
Well, we looked around at the teams, and basically, you know, unless you can get a veteran player and have a veteran team that you can bring him in and he can play right away, that the best players in the National League are probably in the first 4 rounds year in and year out, although there's always an exception. We have 2 free agents here that could play with almost anybody. But as I have looked around and we have tried to determine the teams like Cincinnati and Pittsburgh and such, it's been built through the draft, and that's the way we intend to go.
It's pretty well direct contrast to George Allen's philosophy, and yet he's done well.
Well, I think George's philosophy for him is fine because he inherited an old team that could play pretty well. He added experience to that team, and if when I get this team that old, I'll be very difficult for you to say bring this rookie in and make the team. I'll play with the older people who have the experience, but I don't have any older people that have any experience, and it's even a joke the way they list our experience. They list us 2 years experience for guys who have only been here 1 year. And we're on other teams last year as, you know, free agents and never played in the game. So we are a very young football team.
Somewhat ironic that your oldest player just happens to be an ex-Redskin.
Well, that's our center, and Danny's done a good job for us. And Dan is what I'd call a young player. And, of course, one of the reasons he is, George didn't play very much there, so he didn't get all beat up. So, but Danny's done a good job for us.
How about your old team yesterday? Were you a little disappointed?
Well, yeah, I thought they waited too long to pull the trigger. I think that when your running attack to stop, you know, that badly, you have to go to a passing attack. SC has one of the better ones in the country, and they got started a little too late, but it was a great football game, and I really enjoyed it.
Coach, thanks for stopping by and talking to us, and good luck to you.
Thank you, Frank.
Coach John McKay of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And both of those interviews, Coach Allen and George McKay, obviously done prior to the start of the game today. We're at halftime. Redskins lead the Buccaneers 10-0. Both teams are on the field prior to the start of the second half. As we have time here, let's give you a rundown on the scores we have around the National Football League. These are finals unless otherwise indicated. Philadelphia over the Giants today by a score of 28-10. The Eagles all the way in that one. They ran up 21 points at the outset. The Jets on their second in a row, beating Buffalo. Final score 24-19 in that particular game. Oakland defeated Cleveland as expected. The Raiders continue undefeated. 26-10. Oakland by 16 over the Cleveland Browns, who've certainly had one of the toughest schedules in the entire National Football League. New England shut out Seattle. Seattle and Tampa Bay meet next Sunday, so somebody's got to win that one. Patriots are right back on the beam once again. Minnesota and Detroit were battling for first place in the Central Division, and that now belongs to the Vikings as a result of their 14-7 victory. Detroit scored late in that game, consolation touchdown. Cincinnati over Green Bay by a score of 17-7. Lynn Dickey and Ken Anderson each had one touchdown pass. This was a track meet. Baltimore got 4 touchdown passes from Burt Jones. Miami at one point led in that game 28-10 in the first half. And Baltimore comes back to win it 45-28. Houston defeated Pittsburgh, perhaps the major upset of the day, 27-10. Both starting quarterbacks went out with injuries. Bradshaw with injured ribs, and Pastorini had a problem, I think, with an ankle or a knee. So Houston upsetting Pittsburgh. San Diego shut out Hank Stram's New Orleans Saints by a score of 14-0. San Diego certainly one of the surprising young teams in the National Football League this year. That's a third period score. Atlanta, San Francisco. Falcons playing great defense this year. Really nobody scored on them. And this is still in the second period with about a minute to go prior to the half. Herrera has just kicked a field goal to make it St. Louis 17, Dallas 13. Jim Hart threw a 62-yard touchdown pass to Mel Gray, and Tony Dorsett has run 77 and Metcalf 62. Denver leading Kansas City. That's a halftime.
From Candlestick Park in San Francisco, California, the Atlanta Falcons go against the San Francisco 49ers on an absolutely perfect Sunday afternoon. Hello, everyone. I'm Don Crickey. This is the Baltimore Cold All-Pro Tom Matty. And the Atlanta Falcons are indeed one of the big stories in the National Football League this year. How good are they? Everybody knows they're vastly improved. They'll get a big test today. This is a better football team than the record.
You're right. It is. Defensively, they've played great ball to date. 19 points have been scored on them. Offensively, they're starting to move the ball, scoring points. It's going to be a good ball game, Don.
San Francisco's due. It is 3rd down and 5 now for the 49ers. The ball is at their 25-yard line. No score in the first quarter. The Falcons, who've given up just 19 points in 3 games. Penalty marker goes down as Plunkett puts up a timing pad, and Rollin Lawrence intercepts and takes it into the end zone. But there is a penalty marker down.
I think it's all in vain. It's got to be offsides. Atlanta.
You saw those Falcon defensive linemen jumping a little bit early. Now, whether or not they were drawn off.
Here they are, jumping right across the line. The flag goes up in the air.
Wilson Famuina, the rookie out of San Jose State, left a little early. And so a brilliant play by Rollin Lawrence is negated. And the first 6 points are no longer on the board. They're up very briefly.
And it also gives San Francisco their first down.
Offside, number 74, defense, first down.
So Famuina with offside, and the play comes back, and the 49ers do get the first down. 4th and inches. 2 tight ends in the game. Handoff goes to Stenbeck.
I don't know if he got it.
It's going to be awful tight.
Here's a handback.
He didn't get it from where they have it right now.
I don't think so. Here's Scott Hunter handing off. It's just a power play right to the side there. The hole is filled by those linebackers and the defensive backs. That's where you like to see. Defensive back come up, plug that hole up. I don't think they got it.
Ralph McGill, 49. Well, they have the ball spotted now. They don't have it. San Francisco takes over the ball.
They come up with that big defensive play.
Big defensive play. Maybe they want to see if they can run the ball and give him as much rest as they go into the halftime. Then Plunkett was throwing all right, but you don't know how much pain he was in. 2nd down and 12 now for the 49ers. 23-yard line of Atlanta. Penalty marker down, free football. Famuina picks it up. Wilson Famuina with a cordon of blockers around him. Now he hands off to Rollin Lawrence, who sprints the distance, but it might come back.
It's coming back.
That's 2 now they've had called back. 2 defensive touchdowns by the Falcons in the first half have been called back.
I tell you, that's got to break your heart. Too silly offsides.
There it is. That breaks a lot of hearts, that yellow flag.
I'd say sometimes it's saving them. Just think how San Francisco feels about it. Awful good.
Let's watch that play again.
That ball's bouncing around here. It's an off-tackle play. That running game, they're staying with it. Bounces up. He's stripped again. These guys got to start handling. Now, here's a smart lineman. He didn't want all the glory. He passes it off to somebody who can sprint.
Defense. Second.
He just takes off.
The guy can sprint. That's twice Rylan Lawrence has been in the end zone, and twice they've called it back on him. You recall early in the first quarter, he picked off a Jim Plunkett screen pass out in the flat, ran it in, but it came back on an offside against the Falcons. And now on the fumble recovery by Wilson Famuina, a big rookie from San Jose State who grew up here in San Francisco after moving from American Samoa at the age of 5. Down at the Astrodome in Houston, the Oilers way out in front of the Steelers 27-10 as Fritz has just kicked the field goal for Houston. And now, what's this we have?
Oh, Pastorini, that great young quarterback, I think he is anyway. He suspected that he might have broken his ankle in the game.
Bradshaw, the Steeler quarterback, went out and went to a hospital with a wrist injury. Here's a blitz.
Oh, boy!
Ray Easter, what a football play. Well, that's how you draw it on the board when you have the X's and O's. This is just how it's supposed to work. It doesn't always. That was about as hard a hit. Watch this. Easterling's coming all out in a blitz. 32. He isn't picked up. Farrell is.
Oh my goodness! I'll tell you one thing. You don't like to see that happen.
And they start to boo in San Francisco. But again, we point out, and as everybody who's been watching is certainly aware, the Falcons' defense has scored 2 touchdowns that have been called back in this game. It's still scoreless.
Here it is. Whittam just picks that ball up. He's trying to get it, do anything. He'd like to pass it right now. The best thing he could do is just hold on to it. 40 yards.
He'd like to be in Philadelphia right now.
I tell you, that breaks your heart.
Bob Stenner, our producer, just been in contact with a team physician for the 49ers. Plunkett had bruised ribs. They could use him, but they're going to try not to. And here come the Falcons on the run. Boy, they got mad and they got after the football. Jeff Mara was in on the play. Coming on the blitz was Brazina, and coming was Claude Humphrey, and there's also a penalty marker down, which will be declined. That was a hold.
Here against the blitz coming in. He's setting up, and there's the hold right there, I think. He's grabbing him and tracking him, trying to get any way to get a hold of him. Brazina comes in on the blitz, makes a tackle.
Jim Plunkett still on the sidelines where he's been since the second quarter after the Falcons got him on a heavy rush. Bruised ribs is the diagnosis. He could play again, but they'd like to keep him out if they can. And apparently it's a pretty severely bruised rib because they're going with a backup quarterback in a tie game. Here's a touchdown throw. Touchdown Atlanta. Alfred Jenkins on a circus catch. The very lovely hands of Alfred Jenkins.
My goodness, and right off the deflection, number 42.
Touchdown throw.
Tony Leonard was right there, knocked the ball, knocked it up in the air. He grabbed it for 6 points.
Jenkins had the defense beaten. The ball hung a little bit there. Oh, boy, that guy can get up in the air. But he plays volleyball with it, does Ralph McGill. And Alfred Jenkins very nicely says thank you. Accept that.
I'd gone over and shake his hand for that one.
Thank you so very much. So now we have a 6-0 ball game. Atlanta's in the lead. That would come under their basic spectacular category.
The old alley-oop.
The extra point is drilled up and through by Mickemeyer. And so we have 4:45 left. Look at this. 4:45 left to play in the third quarter. And now all of a sudden the tie is broken and the Falcons lead 7-0. Play. Oh. First and 10. Let's see if Scott Bull starts to fire away. 1:27 to go in the third quarter. Scott Bull looking at first down throws. Here come the Falcons. And down goes Scott Bull. Well, I'll give one guy credit for the sack, but the whole Falcon front four and that linebacker who also came, Ortega, the middle linebacker, Mike Lewis and Claude Humphrey were the first men through. Everybody gets credit for that, in my opinion.
Well, that's for sure. That's their third sack today, too. They're keeping this thing going. They've got that defensive momentum going for them. They're putting that pressure on. The crowd's calling for Plunkett. They want to see some action. Nothing happened. Don't take anything away from that Falcon defense. They're playing a great ball game again.
Now the Falcons go to 5 defensive backs. That replay tells you so much about this game, doesn't it?
It sure does. You don't know. You can call them up here, but you can't call them down there.
3rd and 16 now for Scott Bull, and here come the Falcons. The front four coming. Oh, man. Wilson Famuina was the first guy through, and then Claude Humphrey. Let's watch Claude Humphrey on instant replay.
One of the all-time great defensive ends right here. The rush, break around the outside, beats his man.
Heath Fonhorst with the Matador blocking.
He comes in, lays him down real nice and pretty.
John James will hold. The ball will be set down at the 24-yard line. 10 more into the end zone. There's a slight wind blowing into Mickemeier's kick. But it is almost a straight-on attempt, as you see. Got it up. Hit the crossbar. You can practice for a long time and not be able to do that, but he just did it.
Oh, boy.
It is an automatic touchback as soon as it hit the upright and bounced back the other way. Watch it. Touchback. 49ers have the ball. 1:44 left to play here. It is 7-0 Atlanta, but San Francisco's moving the ball down the stretch.
Scott.
The ball is at the 47-yard line of Atlanta. 1st and 10. Scott Bull drops. He throws. Intercepted. Rollin Lawrence has the ball, and he's carrying it like a loaf of bread. And Rollin Lawrence has run out of bounds as he crosses midfield, and so he makes a game-saving play. He assures a Falcon victory. With 1:34 left to go, the Falcons have the ball. 1st and 10.
Here it is again. It's just an overthrow by Scott Bull. Well, I'll tell you one thing. He's going to have some coaching points on carrying that ball, but he finally got some justification for all those little runbacks he had before.
So Lehman Bennett and the Falcons exchange congratulations, and off they go as the boos cascade down here at Candlestick Park. The Falcons 3-1 after the season. 4th game. The 49ers 0-4. Don't forget, next Saturday, the Jockey Club Gold Cup, a $300,000 thoroughbred race on the CBS Sports Spectacular. You'll also see the greatest gymnasts in the world, like Nadia Comaneci and Nellie Kim, in the Chunichi Cup from Tokyo, and the World's Strongest Men competition. That's next Saturday at 4:30 Eastern Time on the CBS Sports Spectacular. Well, the story here today was the Atlanta Falcon defense. Through 4 games this season, they have given up a total of 19 points. They gave up on the average of 22 points a game last year. The touchdown pass from Hunter to Jenkins in the 3rd quarter was the scoring. That was it. And so that is the final number. And for Tom Matte, this is Don Criqui. Glad you could be with us. Now stay tuned for more outstanding football from St. Louis, where the Cowboys and the Cardinals are still matched up.
And if you wonder how a run like Tony Dorsett just made occurs, look at the center. Blocking on Tim Carney. And then a missed tackle. And the Cardinals have had trouble with that all year. They just haven't been tackling well.
2nd and 13 for Jim Hart and the Cardinals on their own 40-yard line. Gray is left. Harris is right. The backs both stay in, and he goes for the bomb intended for Gray. Touchdown! He beat Mel Renfro.
Oh,
and there's a fight on the field.
We have got some action.
It is Harvey Martin being restrained, and down at the bottom there is even more. As they get up, Conrad Dobler was at the bottom.
He's at the bottom of everything.
With Jim Hart, Mel Gray taking that away from Mel Renfro.
I'm telling you, when those two team up, they can make things happen in a hurry. That's his first touchdown pass of the year, and that's one of the reasons the Cardinals haven't been very effective on offense. Mel Gray can make the big play for you. See the big rush there? The ball, look at the adjustment he makes on the ball. He was looking over his other shoulder, turned and looked over his left shoulder, and made the reception on a perfectly thrown pass.
And for Mel Renfro, 14 years in the big leagues, he had his nose in the rug as Mel Gray carried it in. So the Cardinals come roaring back, and it is 16-10 St. Louis. Jim Bakken will try to make it 17. Boy, they really got a mix-up there. Everybody watching Gray dance in the end zone, and there was Dobler, Hart, Harvey Martin, they were really going at it.
That's going to give that Cardinal defense a lift, too, because they expect the Cardinals. They've got the material to score a lot of points, and they haven't been doing it this year. That's going to give that defense, make them play a whole lot harder.
That was
watch
a
Roger
60
come
yard.
back. Roger be back.
60-yard touchdown pass to Mel Gray. And now Bakken trying to add one to it. It's up. It's good. Oh, don't go wandering away. We got 9 minutes and 3 seconds to go in the second quarter. The Cardinals 17 and the Cowboys 10.
Miami and Baltimore, both unbeaten when they got out of bed and got dressed today. 73 points later, only the Baltimore Colts are unbeaten. Their first offensive play, Lydell Mitchell explodes. On the day, he carried 16 times for 137 yards. This put the Colts up by 7. Now it is Bob Greasy handing to Benny Malone, who goes 52 yards for a Miami touchdown. This put the Dolphins ahead 14-7, and Malone rushed for 145 yards. Now it is the moment when Greasy wants to go to Duriel Harris on the 1-yard line. Did he fumble the ball or was he down? The Colts screamed bloody murder that this was a touchback and should come out on the 20. But they gave it to Miami and they scored a touchdown. Then they came back with Benny Malone again. This time, 61 yards as he scores 2 touchdowns, gains a phenomenal 145 yards. Miami led at 28-10. Baltimore then scored 35 unanswered points. Jones goes to Chester. This is a 27-yarder. Jones, 19 of 31, 210 yards, and 4 touchdown passes, including this one to McCauley, 23 yards, 45-28. The final score, Baltimore still unbeaten. Now the rest of the scores around the National Football League. Of course, the big game, St. Louis leading the Cowboys at the half, the contest you're watching. Kansas City and Denver. Livingston, the Chiefs quarterback, out with a separated shoulder. The Broncos rolling toward that showdown with Oakland next Sunday. Washington and Tampa Bay, the Redskins shutting out the Bucs in the third quarter. Atlanta and San Francisco. The Falcons have had 2 touchdowns called back in that game already. San Diego wins. They shut out New Orleans and Archie Manning 14-0. Pittsburgh, Houston. Big upset and a big story. Terry Bradshaw fractured his left wrist in that game. Dottie Pastorini of Houston may have torn up an ankle. Franco Harris, the Steeler quarterback, went out with a pinched nerve. Oilers win it 27-10. And again, the final score, Baltimore beats Miami 45-28. Cincinnati had trouble early, then came back, scored the last 17 points to beat the Pack 17-7. Other final in the NFC Central, the Vikes now lead it as they beat Detroit 14-7. New England's first shutout in 3 years. They racked the Seahawks 31-0. Oakland and Cleveland 26-10, and the Raiders win for the 17th straight time. Jets upset Buffalo despite 122 by O.J. Simpson. Philadelphia stops the Giants 28-10 the final in that game. And Phyllis George, we've got a baseball game coming up tonight, Kansas City and the New York Yankees.
This is going to be the biggest war of all times in the American League. The weather's beautiful. It is in Kansas City, split off starting for the Royals, and for the Yankees is Guidry. Who do you like, Jimmy?
You.
No, that's not what you're supposed to say, James. Who do you like tonight for the baseball
Kansas
game?
City comes up last. That gives them the edge. That's the only thing.
And being at home helps.
That's it. That's why they get the bat last, because they are at home.
That's right. And, you know, you're something else. And I'm going to ask you something about the World Series. Who do you like? Who's the favorite? Let's make the decision right now.
Okay. Regardless of who wins it between Kansas City and the Yankees, the Dodgers will be the favorite. 2 good reasons. They have 3 or 4 players who hit over 300, plus the fact that they hit 30 or more home runs by each one, plus the fact that their pitchers have at least 24 hours more rest than either Kansas City or the Yankees. So we have to make the Dodgers a slight favorite.
Good enough.
Let's take it away from him, Irv, and get to the highlights. As the NFL Today continues on CBS after these messages from your local stations. For the 40th time in his fabulous career, O.J. Simpson today rushed for better than 100 yards. But the Bills still came up a loser. It's the first time this season that the Juice has turned it loose as he rolls outside for 39 yards in the early going with the score tied against the New York Jets. Bills get on the board. Ferguson to Pacone, formerly of the Jets in the corner after the extra point, 7-0. Back came Richard Todd. He's maturing slowly for Walt Michaels, coming along nicely. Here is Harper. What a pickup he has been as he gets his way to the 5-yard line of the Bills. Now it'll be Todd going to Jerome Barkham for the touchdown. This put the Jets in command 17-7, and the Bills were forced to come off the deck. Ferguson rolling, wants Chandler his favorite target, made it 17-14. They then tied it. With a couple of minutes to go, the Bills fumbled. And for the 13th straight time since he became coach, Jim Ringo came up a loser for Buffalo as Clark Gaines ran it in. 24-19, Jets a winner. Irv?
Brent, the Minnesota Vikings took a commanding lead in the National Football Conference Central Division today by defeating the Detroit Lions 14-7 out of Minnesota. Of course, Van Tarkenton had a pretty good day, passing for 267 yards and 2 touchdown passes. And here's one of his early throws in the ball game down to Ahmed Rashad down to the 13-yard line. Sets up a pretty nice sequence of plays, which is followed up by this one, a pass to Sammy White. Remember him, the great wide receiver, was Rookie of the Year last year. Minnesota takes an early 7-0 lead. Targeting this time elects to go to some razzle-dazzle, throwing the ball outside to Ahmed Rashad, who's pinned up here on the sideline. He hands the ball off to Sammy White, and Sammy legs it the rest of the way in for another Minnesota score, and he led 14-0. Of course, that Viking defense is pretty tough, and Greg Landry tried to find some kind of way to crack it, and he does here as Luther Blue goes over on a pretty tough run here and goes in, but it wasn't enough as Minnesota won 14-7.
And Irv Tarkenton, 21 of 31 for 267 yards. Tell Jimmy the Greek about the Tark stats today, will you? Dallas and St. Louis. As Ben Scully has told you, it has been an excellent football game. Jimmy Bakken with a 32-yard field goal. Cardinals ahead of the Cowboys, 3-0. Watch this block punt. Here comes Waters. It's going to be recovered by the Cowboys on the 13-yard line, and that set up a Herrera field goal. A 29-yarder coming up, and it managed to tie the score at Dallas 3 and St. Louis 3, and Herrera is dead on, isn't he? I guess the only big one I can ever remember missing was in that game against Minnesota that opened the season. Now it's Metcalf. Here he comes, back in the starting lineup for the Cardinals. He explodes 62 yards for the touchdown, and after the Bakken extra point, it was 10-3, and Phyllis George was looking downcast. But then back came Tony Dorsett. Oh, that's a $100 fine for doing that. Now it's Tony Dorsett, 77 yards. Sweet run, isn't it? He just busts loose there and turns it on. Notice that high step when they get a hand on him. Shades of Gale Sayers. Tied at 10 after Herrera's extra point. Now it is Hart who is shaken up rudely. What a game 79 Harvey Martin has had. Mel Gray caught it 60 yards, and it put him up. And at halftime, 17-13 is the score. And the NFL Today will continue on CBS in just a moment.
The Dallas Cowboys are a homegrown football team, and a team that plays offense like nobody else. Hi, I'm Harvey Martin, and I was born and raised in Dallas, and I'm very pleased to have this chance to show you my home. Now, in a way, Dallas came out of nowhere. No harbors, no railroads, no rivers, nothing to make it great except the people. People who saw a city that looks like tomorrow. People who love football and the Texas State Fair, summer musicals, and three-alarm chili. You know, we get kidded about being Texans and claiming they have the biggest everything, but there are people in Dallas with the biggest hearts anywhere. They're the volunteers of our United Way. People like you and me working with the Red Cross, the YMCA, Services for the Aging, and many other agencies funded by our United Way. They take pride in our team, our city, and our United Way. They're beautiful people, and for all of them, we'd like to say thanks to you. It works for all of us, the United Way.
The preceding announcement was brought to you as a public service by the National Football League. Well, every now and then you get all the ingredients. You get two good ball clubs, you get perfect weather, a sellout crowd, some very high, potent offensive performers, and they are all working today, much to the delight of a sellout crowd here in St. Louis. Not a cloud in the sky. And it's Dallas and the Cardinals, and Hawkeye couldn't ask for a better first half.
Benny, you got it right on the head, but this is one of the finest football games you're ever going to see. But do you think what's going on in the minds of Roger Finney at halftime, you suppose?
I was just going to ask you that. Probably the biggest single question posed to the Cardinals, what do you do about Harvey Martin?
Well, you can try hobbling him or putting him in a cage, and if none of those work, you can have him arrested.
Or maybe shoot him with a tranquilizer.
Something. Brother, he is playing in an uncontrollable rage in that latter part of that second quarter.
In fact, on that last play, when Hart went down under the charge by Harvey Martin, he was literally a wild man. It looked like he got away with a strong head slap. Yeah. It looked like he got away with some face mask grabbing, and Hart didn't get away.
No, Hart, I hope to see him come back out in the second half. We got too good a game. I don't want to see anybody run.
We can take a look at some numbers as far as halftime, and in case you weren't with us, as you read those numbers, we'll fill you in. First of all, Jim Bakken kicked a 32-yard field goal. The big play was a 42-yard pass penalty to set it up. However, the Cowboys came back a 29-yard field goal from Efren Herrera. Then Terry Metcalf in the first quarter ran 62 yards for a touchdown. Bakken converted. But in the second quarter, Anthony Dorsett ran 77 yards for a touchdown. Herrera converted. Then a 60-yard pass play from Jim Hart to Mel Gray, who caught it in front of Mel Renfro for the touchdown. And finally, in the second quarter, Efren Herrera kicked a 40-yard field goal. So you're up to date on the scoring plays. The Cardinals leading the Cowboys 17-13 at halftime. Don Coryell puzzled about his kicking game as the Cardinals put it in play 1st and 10 on their own 27-yard line. Staubach to Anthony Dorsett, and he gets out across the 35-yard line and bulls his way to the 40. Before we look at Dorsett again, we should tell you that last punt by Terry Joyce went 23 yards, and his punts today, he went 31, 27, 33, and 23. He had one blocked, and that could be a most important factor in the game.
It could very well be. Could very well be before this day is over.
So 1st and 10 as Dorsett carried it to the 40-yard line. Anthony in there with Robert Newhouse. And a handoff to Dorsett. The Cardinals trying to bring him down, and they can't. And they have to have a team meeting before they can get him down across the 45.
Look at that, brother. Moves, speed, acceleration, he's got it all. Well, I guess that's why he had such a successful career at Pitt. Watch how he bounces back against the flow this time. Sitting in the back to the right, he goes back to against the flow of the pursuit. And the rest of it's just Tony Dorsett.
He has now carried the ball 5 times. Are you ready? For 112 yards, because he picked up 77 in one great gulp for a touchdown. 2nd and 3 on the Cowboy 47. Golden Richards in a slot right, inside Drew Pearson. Staubach, play action fake to Dorsett, setting up and looking. Under a rush, throws it away.
Oh, they're not going to let him get away with that, are they?
Mike Dawson and Bob Bell were all over him, and all Staubach did was throw it to Clayton County.
There is nobody in the area. Absolutely nobody in the area. That's the second time today that Rogers gotten by with that.
The crowd doesn't like it. Coryell certainly doesn't like it. And it certainly appeared to be a most obvious call. You take a look.
Now, if you can find anybody in that area, you just call me up, because I sure couldn't. Roger Trott back there, and they're not going to let him get outside. You see Bell containing him there. Now, where is the man in that area? I did not see him. I saw a lineman over there.
So it is 3rd and 3 and an angry crowd here. The ball on the Dallas 47-yard line. Richards is left, Drew Pearson right. And Roger fumbles. It's picked up by Charlie Davis. He's to the 10, to the 5, and scores. Charlie Davis out of TCU. There's a flag down on the 5-yard line.
And Mike Dawson was in a fight with the official. Someone pushed him, this official, and he turned to swing at him.
Charlie Davis is from a college in Texas, and he's going to try and beat Dallas. What a play.
Oh, buddy, that's a big break. A huge break. Retribution.
So after Roger Staubach was able to unload the play, watch this one now as he unloads to the opposing player.
There you see Mike Dawson, number 73. Follow him a little bit. A good rush there. Who was that on the outside? Was that, oh, yeah.
Zook.
John Zook.
The kick is good. And another fight starting as Cliff Harris arguing with J.V. Kane. Boy, they are simmering now. But Charlie Davis, an electrifying touchdown. So 2nd and goal from the 1. Newhouse and Dorsett. Dorsett.
What a ball.
Anthony Dorsett goes flying through for his 2nd touchdown of the day, his 4th touchdown of the year, and of course the crowd still angry over the pass interference call that set it up.
Well, so they traded their place in the draft with Seattle, gave up 3 number 2 draft picks, but I don't think they're even a little bit disappointed. Tony Dorsett has been all that he was acclaimed to be. Over the top. Did you notice how they hit him and it didn't even shake him? Great balance.
In the least. Efren Herrera now trying to make it just a 1-point deficit. The kick is good. So the score, with 13 minutes and 15 seconds left to go in the ball game, the Cardinals 24 and the Cowboys 23. We'll return to Bush Memorial Stadium after this word from your local station. Holy mac. 6:58 to go. The Cardinals leading by 1, 24-23. Tony Hill wide left. Golden Richards wide right. Dorsett and Newhouse, the running backs. Staubach flipping it down for Golden Richards. And he's got it. Touchdown. He took it away from Lee Nelson.
Nelson just turned his back on it, never found the ball at all. And what a beautiful play by Roger Staubach and an adjustment on the football by Golden Richards. Gracious, that was pretty. That's the advantage you get over a defensive back that will turn his head from the quarterback and not be able to find the ball. He's virtually helpless on a pass like that. He just got to be lucky. As you see, Lee Nelson never finds the ball, and a great adjustment by Golden Richards.
So it's a 17-yard touchdown pass from Staubach to Golden Richards. Efren Herrera now gets it up, and it's good. And so the Cowboys have come from behind to take a 6-point lead with 6:53 to go in the game. The Cowboys 30 and the Cardinals 24. 3rd and 10 from the Dallas 44. Hart gets it off deep to his man Kane, and he's got it inside the 20-yard line. He beat Mel Renfro by coming back. Ike Harris, number 84, making the catch inside the 20.
Once again, Jim Hart, under pressure, he seems to perform better. They had the blitz on that time. That kind of surprises me about that Dallas having the blitz on. The ball thrown slightly underthrown. Had it been thrown perfectly, it would have been a touchdown. Mel Renfro, twice he's been victimized today. Oh, we picked up all the blitzers there nicely. Cliff Harris still not giving up on the thing. Larry Cole again.
Well, talking about all-star lineups, they go head-to-head now. 3rd and 7 from the Dallas 14-yard line. 3:04 left to go in the game. Hart fakes once, goes high and over Kane. They're claiming interference. It will not be called. J.V. Kane thought that Charlie Waters, number 41, had interfered, but they didn't call it.
So I want to tell you one thing.
And to you folks who saw Washington beat Tampa Bay 10-0, we have a lot more going on here. 30-24 Dallas. 2 minutes and 53 seconds left to go in the ball game. The Cardinals have it 4th and 7 on the Dallas 14-yard line. We can take a look at that last play, Alex.
And I think there was some contact between Charlie Waters and J.V. Kane here. I might be wrong. See the pump there. Too tall, could not bat it down. And there was some contact, but I don't think it was flagrant.
4th and 7 from the 14. Furious charge. He throws it, and it's intercepted by Cliff Harris. And Terry Metcalf missed the tackle, and he finally goes down at the 10-yard line. Cliff Harris, 2 times All-Pro, 3 times in the Pro Bowl.
Oh,
makes the big interception, and that just about took the tail feathers from the Cardinals. 30-24 Cowboys, 2:44 left. We've got 2 minutes and 44 seconds left to go in the ball game. The Cowboys 30, the Cardinals 24, and Tom Landry has just seen one of his clutch performers, Cliff Harris, come up with a 4th down interception, and now Roger Staubach will try and move him out from their own 10-yard line. Drew Pearson wide left. Dorsett is in there with Newhouse. 2 tight ends, Dupre and Saldy, and it's Newhouse trying to follow Donovan's block, and there's a big brutal battle right there at the 10. Mike Dawson, among others.
If you're thinking about going someplace, the game is over. Please don't. The Cardinals are just always exceptional in the last 2 minutes.
The Cardinals have elected to take a timeout.
Bobby Newhouse with that low center of gravity. Look how he gets underneath everybody. He's hard to knock off his feet.
So it will be 2nd and 10 from the Dallas 10-yard line. Here is our big all-star lineup on CBS for tonight. 60 Minutes, followed by Rhoda, and then the premiere of On Our Own. Then All in the Family, followed by Alice, and then Kojak. What a tremendous all-star lineup, and they'll be all coming up right here this evening in their entirety, right here on CBS. Well, Roger Staubach talking to Tom Landry. That's a familiar scene on television screens for these many years. Staubach 9 years at the controls. Meanwhile, the Cardinals trailing by 6, 2 minutes and 35 seconds remaining in the game. It'll be 2nd and 10. This is a timeout, St. Louis. Hart 9 for 32, 186 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Staubach 16 for 29, 153 yards, 1 touchdown. There you see the timeouts remaining. The runners, Dorsett 11 for 136 yards, would lead the pack. And of course he picked up 77 on 1 carry. 2nd and 10 from the 10. Butch Johnson in a slot inside Drew Pearson right. Staubach going for Drew Pearson. He's all alone. And Drew Pearson being chased by Mike Sensabaugh. He's gone.
Do you believe that? You just don't know about Roger Staubach.
There is a flag on the play, however. Way down by the end zone, a flag on the play.
Who in the world would have thought up that play? Now, Tom Landry had something to say about it, I'm sure, because of them huddling over there, but you just don't know about Roger.
90 yards down the drain on that. It's against Dallas.
That would have been the last thing I'd look for.
Offense, 61, holding.
Jim Cooper caught holding, number 61. And what a spot to be in. You've just blown a 90-yard touchdown. It is 2nd and 15 from the 5-yard line. So Jim Cooper, who is listed 3rd on the 3 deep. And you can just imagine how he feels right now. He's out of Temple, a 22-year-old rookie. He aged rapidly after that play.
I'll say he did, or he will when he watches the film.
2nd and 15 from the 5-yard line. We've got 2:22 to go. Dallas leading by 6. Richards wide left. It's Anthony Dorsett going nowhere. Charlie Davis, number 76, wrapped him up. The same Davis who ran with a fumble for a touchdown. The Cardinals asking for time. 2 minutes and 9 seconds left to go. 3rd down, 15 to go. They moved it out to about the 6-yard line. The Cardinals trailing by 6. And Staubach will pay Tom Landry yet another visit.
This is a long way from over with 2 minutes and 9 seconds remaining, but it's so important to Cardinals, to them, this game, the outcome of it. You know, they lose today, they're in big trouble. Dallas, of course, they can afford to lose today. They came into today's game 3-0. Cardinals 1-2. It's not a must game for the Cowboys, but gracious, it is a big game for the Cardinals.
We can take a look at some final scores right now. Philadelphia 28 over the New York Giants 10. The New York Jets edging Buffalo 24-19. Oakland defeating Cleveland 26-10. New England shutting out Seattle 31-0. Cincinnati knocking off Green Bay 17-7. Miami and Baltimore slugging it out. Baltimore the winner 45-28. And Pittsburgh not only losing, but evidently losing their great quarterback, Terry Bradshaw. Houston 27, Pittsburgh 10. San Diego blanked Hank Stram's New Orleans club that scored over 40 points last week, 14-0. Minnesota edging Detroit 14-7. Atlanta, in a battle of zeros, finally got on the scoreboard to beat San Francisco 7-0. And Washington, in a defensive battle against a very tough Tampa Bay defensive team, beat him 10-0. Denver 23, Kansas City 7. And there's our beauty with 2 minutes and 9 seconds left. 3rd and 14 for Dallas on their own 6-yard line. Dupre has Saldi in the backfield, another tight end to block for Staubach. Roger from the end zone. Throwing, and is it complete? No good. Intended for Drew Pearson, but he was out of bounds.
Well, predictably, that's who you would go. That's where Roger goes so often in pressure situations and clutch situations, to Drew Pearson. That time, Drew could not keep it in bounds.
That's Mike Dawson hollering at the official.
Lee Nelson playing an outstanding game today. He had the coverage over there. Bumped him out of bounds. Roger doesn't hesitate to throw out of that end zone. There you see it.
There's a flag that has been thrown, and that's why Mike Dawson was hollering. And they put the ball on the 21-yard line of Dallas.
73, defense, roughing the passer.
Charged against Mike Dawson. Roughing the passer against Dawson. What a crusher that is.
Once again, the lack of experience. Second-year man Mike Dawson. Spinning off the block there. And there could well have been. He'll learn in time. Gracious, that hurt the Cardinals.
So the penalty by Cooper offset a 90-yard touchdown, and now the penalty by Dawson gives Dallas a great opportunity. Here comes Robert Newhouse. Didn't quite get it to the 25. As you see, there are 2 minutes left to go in the ball game, and what a ball game it has been. And Dallas trying to hold on to it, leading by 6, 30-24. 2nd and 6 from the Cowboy 25. They just got a big penalty going against the Cardinals. Newhouse and Dorsett out of the eye. Drew Pearson wide left, and now in motion. It is Dorsett. He just went leaping over Charlie Davis, who was on the ground, number 76, to pick up the yards. And Davis hurt his leg and is just slowly getting up while Tom Landry sends Butch Johnson in with a play. 1 left for the Cardinals. So Dallas with 3 timeouts left. They're going to try and hold on to the ball. 1:33 and the clock is going.
Don't believe they're going to get their hands on it again.
Doesn't look that way. They had the chance. A big break when the penalty against Cooper, and a bad break the penalty against Dawson. 3rd and 2 from the 29. Here comes Dorsett. A great play by Kenny Reeves, the strong safety. Robert Newhouse tried to get Kenny Reeves out of there, and number 36 wouldn't budge and tied it up.
Frankly, I'm a little surprised in that play selection by Roger. A pitch out is kind of hard to use in a situation like that. And a rookie, I don't believe so.
All right, 1 minute and 8 seconds to go. It's 4th and 3 on the Dallas 28. Danny White is coming in to punt. He'll be kicking from his 15. Terry Metcalf is all alone on his 30. What a finish. What a ball game. We'll see if the Cardinals are coming. No. And Danny White gets it away off to the right side and out of bounds, and we'll see where they spot it. The first look, it will put the Cardinals in pretty good field position.
Still plenty of time. There's a minute and 2 seconds. And with guys like Mel Gray and that
except
crowd.
no timeouts for the Cardinals.
Oh, there's ways, though.
They're going to spot it on the Cardinal 45-yard line. So Jim Hart trying to lead his Cardinals 55 yards. And the Cowboys 30, the Cardinals 24 with a minute to go. Ike Harris wide left, Mel Gray wide right. Kane the tight end on the right side. Wayne Morris, Terry Metcalf the running backs. The backs stay in to block. And Hart needs the blocking and finally gets it down to the right side, and it's going to be intercepted, intended for Mel Gray, and it was Charlie Waters, number 41, who made the interception.
Well, there you go. Those two safeties of the Dallas Cowboys. Cliff Harris just a little while ago with his interception, and now Charlie Waters. A ball that I know Jim Hart did not want to throw. Throwing a ball clear across the field after having to scramble and run around the pocket, the timing, it just had to throw it too late and too far. Charlie Waters not about to let him get behind him. Well, so it's a big play from the young man from a Clemson University.
Well, we have 54 seconds left to go. We would like to thank our producer, Chuck Milden, our director, Sandy Grossman, our statistician, Dr. Bob Woods, for sending you this ball game. And a reminder, the CBS Sports Spectacular next Saturday at 4:30 p.m. Live, the full coverage of the Jockey Club, the Chinichi Cup, and the Strongmen's Competition. And Starbuck just goes looking for a hole. 50 seconds left to go, and the Cowboys with 3 timeouts, and the Cardinals have none. And so the Cardinals have had all their tail feathers pulled here. A tough ball game, pass interference going against the Cardinals, then a 90-yard touchdown play called back because of a penalty against Dallas Cowboys. Then Don Coryell saw what appeared to be a big play wiped out on a penalty against the Cardinals. And so penalties have really taken their toll and decided the issue in the waning moments.
I could agree with you. Yes, sir.
They just run it out here, and there's not a thing the Cardinals can do about it. So Dallas will remain victorious. They'll be 4-0, and the Cardinals suffer perhaps a mortal defeat. 1-3, but what a showdown. The Cardinals led 10-3. The Cardinals led 17-13 at the half. The Cardinals led 24-16 at the end of 3 quarters. But 2 touchdowns in the 4th period for Dallas, and the Cardinals lose it as a great Dallas ball club hangs on to win it 30-24. Tom Landry has now won 141 games in his career, the 6th winningest coach in history. Well, a reminder, on the heels of a marvelous ball game here in St. Louis that saw the Cowboys battle from behind and then stubbornly hold on to win it 30-24, you have the prospects of a marvelous evening yet to come. 60 Minutes, Rhoda, the premiere of On Our Own, then All in the Family, followed by Alice, and then Kojak. All those great programs will be seen in their entirety this evening right here on the CBS television network. And for the Cowboys, who perhaps came in a little bit flat, they were undefeated 3-0. For the Cardinals, as Alex Hawkins had said, they were sky high because they felt it was a game they had to win. And the Cardinals got out in front, but finally, in the last quarter, the Cowboys surfaced the way they can and won it 30-24.
day on quarterbacks. Watch Kenny Stabler against the Cleveland Browns. Number 64, Joe Jones, roars in, sacks Stabler. Stabler's down, he's shaken. He had to leave the game, but he did come back to lead the undefeated Oakland Raiders 26-10 over the Cleveland Browns. The Kansas City's chief, Mike Livingston, learned what the Mountain Boys have known so long, that the Denver Broncos have a very tough defense. Out of the pocket, he's chased by Livingston, learned what the Mountain Boys have known so long, that the Denver Broncos have a very tough defense. Out of the pocket, he's chased by Paul Smith, then hit by Randy Gradishar. Livingston survived that hit, but later was shaken up, bruised left shoulder. However, he should be able to play against Baltimore on Sunday. Dan Pastorini, number 7, dropping into his own territory, looking frantically for a Houston Oilers receiver. Instead, he finds number 75, Joe Green of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and down he goes, twisting his right leg under Joe Green. Severely sprained right ankle. Dan Pastorini, like Bradshaw, says that he'll be back next week. Before the injury, Dan Pastorini, in the third quarter, with the score tied at 10 apiece, gets good pass protection. Looks far downfield for Billy Johnson, number 84. And the speedy Johnson has eluded Mel Blount of the Steelers. Runs under the pass to put Houston out in front to stay. The Houston Oilers going on to defeat Pittsburgh 27-10. Surprisingly, they lead the Central Division of the American Football Conference.
They have Rod Perry in there in place of Pat Thomas, who's bench starting. The ball was perfectly thrown, and you'll see him stride it out. They must have had one more. It was not exactly the same pattern. You'll see him come down and give a little outside move again to Rod Perry. The ball was a little underthrown, but thrown just right. You saw him come back up, make that leap. Perry missed it by a foot. Rams are coming. Look out. Isaiah Robinson blitzed. Cavallini got away. Hangs it up in the end zone. Holy cow! It is Greg Lotta. Touchdown Bears. I'll tell you what he did, what any good receiver has to do. In all that traffic, he concentrated on one thing, the ball. Looked it right into his hand. Slivers was all over him, bothering him. And he looked it right in. Peyton, the leading rusher of the night, 135 yards. A great show by the Chicago Bears, who, like Dick Butkus said, always play well on Monday night, and indeed they did tonight. Starting upset. The Bears over the Rams, 24-23. Final seconds tick away, and the fans love it. Joe Namath leaving the field. Banged around, did not throw the ball well, and took quite a pounding. But he appears to be all right from that last shot that he took. And knowing this man, I can tell you no one feels any more badly about it than he does. He has a great deal of pride in what he does. I'm sure that in his own mind there's a question of whether or not he can still do it. For every pro football player, there comes that time. Once again, the final score. The Chicago Bears 24, the Los Angeles Rams 23.